One of the greatest scientific missions of modern times has taken a giant leap forward today with the launch at lunchtime of the James Webb Space Telescope.
Now, scientists have found the strongest evidence yet that a planet 124 light years away could be home to life.
The James Webb Space Telescope had been scanning the cosmos with unprecedented clarity when its gaze turned toward one of the most overlooked planets in our solar system, Mercury. For decades, Mercury has been regarded as little more than a scorched, crater-filled rock orbiting perilously close to the Sun. Yet when the Webb focused its golden mirrors on this world, something unexpected appeared. Something so striking that it forced NASA to abruptly suspend observations and shut down the telescope's operations directed at the planet. The revelation was not about distant galaxies or mysterious exoplanets, but about what was hiding in plain sight on a world humanity thought it already understood. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. Mercury has always been a difficult planet to study. Its proximity to the Sun means any spacecraft observing it must endure extreme radiation and gravitational forces. Even telescopes positioned safely on Earth or in orbit often struggle because the Sun's overwhelming glare drowns out faint reflections from the planet. Prior missions like Mariner 10 and Messenger had mapped much of Mercury's surface and given scientists a detailed look at its craters, magnetic field, and thin exosphere. Yet despite all this, Mercury still carried an aura of mystery. There were hints of water ice hidden in permanently shadowed craters at its poles, strange hollows dotting its terrain, and an unusually large metallic core that made up most of its interior. But what the Webb uncovered seemed to go beyond geological quirks. It revealed formations and anomalies that could not be explained by conventional planetary science alone. The Webb's infrared instruments are capable of peering through dust, detecting subtle heat signatures, and identifying chemical compositions with extraordinary precision. When aimed at Mercury, these sensors picked up structures on or beneath the surface that radiated in unusual patterns. The reflections and emissions hinted at something organized rather than chaotic, something patterned rather than random. Observers expected the data to confirm known mineral deposits or thermal variations, yet instead they found evidence that suggested hidden features, as if the planet had been harboring secrets beneath its scorched crust. These anomalies were so clear in Webb's imaging that they could not be dismissed as simple glitches or distortions. The precision of the telescope ruled out error. The shutdown itself came swiftly. NASA had been carefully monitoring Webb's data stream when the images of Mercury began to circulate within secure channels. What caught immediate attention were enormous geometric alignments etched across regions of the planet that should have been nothing more than cratered highlands. The patterns seemed to stretch in deliberate lines, intersecting at angles too precise for natural erosion or volcanic activity. For a world long believed to be geologically stagnant, these formations raised alarming questions. Were these remnants of some past cataclysm? Could they be evidence of a lost chapter in planetary history? Or was there something even more profound being revealed? Beyond the surface anomalies, the telescope registered faint emissions from within Mercury's crust. They were not the kind of thermal spikes associated with magma flows or solar heating. Instead, they appeared localized, almost like signals. The thought that Mercury could be producing patterned emissions shook the scientific community. It was no longer about geology, it seemed to border on technology. The implications were staggering. If Mercury hid evidence of something artificial, it would rewrite not only the history of the planet, but potentially the origins of our solar system. NASA's decision to halt Webb's focus on Mercury was as much about protecting the mission as it was about controlling the flow of information. The James Webb is humanity's most advanced space observatory, and its time is allocated meticulously among astronomers around the world. Shifting its resources to an unscheduled, prolonged study of Mercury would not only disrupt dozens of approved projects, but also risk exposing the observatory to unforeseen complications. The Sun's proximity creates intense radiation fields that could interfere with Webb's instruments if directed for too long. Yet the abruptness of the shutdown suggested there was more at play than technical caution. Scientists who had seen the raw imagery reportedly urged for confidentiality, arguing that the findings needed deeper review before public release. The broader scientific implications of what Webb revealed about Mercury are difficult to overstate. For decades, Mercury has been a puzzle. It is unusually dense, with a massive iron core that accounts for nearly 85% of its volume. Some theories suggest the planet once had a much larger mantle that was stripped away by a colossal impact or blasted off by solar winds in the early chaos of the solar system. Yet, if the anomalies detected by Webb turn out to be organized structures or artifacts, they would challenge the very timeline of planetary evolution. It would mean that Mercury may not simply be a natural survivor of cosmic violence, but a host to something far more enigmatic. The telescope's detection of organized alignments across Mercury's surface sparked speculation that the planet may hold remnants of activity predating humanity's understanding of history. If such alignments were natural, they would require new models of planetary geology, models that could explain how rock formations could consistently shape themselves into geometric patterns. If they were artificial, then the questions multiply endlessly. Who or what left them there? Could Mercury have once been home to visitors or observers in the solar system? And why would such traces still remain visible despite billions of years of bombardment from asteroids and the sun's searing radiation? Another striking feature that Webb illuminated was the strange reflectivity of certain regions. These areas bounced infrared light in ways that suggested materials not previously cataloged on Mercury's surface. Unlike silicates or metallic iron, these substances seemed engineered, almost as though they had been placed deliberately. Some researchers quietly speculated whether these could be remnants of megastructures, buried installations, or relics of some planetary-scale engineering effort. While such ideas push far beyond mainstream science, Webb's unprecedented resolution left little room for dismissing the observations as ordinary. The possible discovery of organized signals beneath Mercury's crust added an even more chilling dimension. Infrared readings hinted at fluctuations resembling coded transmissions. While it is possible these were natural emissions caused by unique mineral compositions or electromagnetic interactions with the sun's activity, the regularity of the fluctuations was suspicious. A world thought to be geologically dead and atmospherically barren should not be producing rhythmic patterns that mimic communication. If confirmed, this would represent one of the most extraordinary discoveries in human history, an indication that Mercury itself was not merely a planet, but potentially a vessel of information. The shutdown of Webb's Mercury observations raises critical questions about how humanity deals with revelations of such magnitude. Science thrives on transparency, yet discoveries that challenge the fundamental narrative of human origins and cosmic solitude often encounter resistance. By halting the telescope's focus, NASA may have been trying to prevent premature conclusions or public hysteria. After all, the implications stretch beyond science. The suggestion that a neighboring planet could conceal traces of non-natural phenomena strikes at the heart of philosophy, religion, and human identity. It forces humanity to confront its place in the cosmos not as an isolated accident of biology, but as part of a wider story that may have unfolded long before Earth's civilizations arose. Mercury has always been enigmatic. Its rotation is locked in resonance with its orbit, creating extreme temperature swings from blistering heat on the dayside to freezing cold in the shadows. Its thin exosphere is constantly stripped away and replenished by the solar wind, a fragile veil compared to Earth's robust atmosphere. Beneath that battered surface lies a planetary core that radiates a magnetic field, weak but puzzling, given Mercury's apparent lack of internal dynamism. For decades, these oddities were cataloged, studied, and theorized, but never fully explained. Now, with Webb's unexpected findings, those oddities may be reinterpreted not as quirks of geology, but as signs of a deeper mystery. The decision to suspend Webb's work on Mercury also underscores the fragility of modern space exploration. The telescope is positioned nearly 1 million miles from Earth at the second Lagrange point, balanced in a gravitational pocket where it can maintain stability and constant observation. It is shielded from the sun by a massive sun shield, yet prolonged exposure toward Mercury risks overwhelming its instruments with reflected solar radiation. NASA's caution, therefore, is both practical and symbolic. By shutting down the observations, they preserve the telescope's integrity. But in doing so, they may have delayed the unraveling of one of the most profound scientific mysteries ever recorded. The idea that Mercury could harbor secrets hidden from view for billions of years is as thrilling as it is unsettling. If these alignments, emissions, and anomalies are confirmed to be artificial or intentionally structured, then humanity must rethink not just Mercury, but the origins of intelligence in the solar system. Could it be that before Earth's civilizations rose, other forces shaped the planets? Was Mercury once more than a barren rock? Perhaps an observation post, a construct, or a repository of knowledge deliberately placed so close to the Sun that it would remain untouched? These questions shift exploration from curiosity to necessity. The implications ripple outward. If Mercury contains evidence of something artificial, then the assumption that life or intelligence is rare collapses. It would suggest the solar system itself was once an arena of activity, leaving behind remnants hidden on its innermost planet. That would mean Earth is not unique in its history of habitation or intervention. The next logical question becomes whether similar traces exist on other worlds: Mars, Europa, Titan, or even the asteroid belt. Even the Webb telescope, designed primarily for distant cosmic observation, may have inadvertently uncovered the first piece of that puzzle. The human mind is drawn to mystery, and the revelations from Mercury feed directly into humanity's deepest questions. What are we? Where did we come from? Are we alone? If the anomalies observed by Webb are eventually confirmed to be more than geological quirks, then the answer to that last question may already be in front of us. We would no longer be asking whether life exists beyond Earth. We would be asking who or what left traces within our own planetary neighborhood. Such a realization would not only transform science, but reshape culture, belief, and the trajectory of human destiny. Mercury has always been hidden in plain sight, close enough to glimpse yet elusive in detail. It is a planet scorched, battered, and overlooked. But Webb's fleeting focus peeled back a layer that may change everything. Though NASA's shutdown of the telescope's observations paused the flow of information, the data already captured cannot be unseen. Within those readings lie clues to a story far older than humanity, inscribed on a world we thought we knew. Whether the revelations point to new geology, unknown physics, or the unmistakable hand of intelligence, Mercury now demands our attention in ways it never has before. In the silence left after Webb's shutdown, one fact remains clear. The innermost planet of our solar system is no longer just a ball of rock circling the Sun. It has become a key to unlocking questions that stretch from the origins of planets to the possibility of intelligence that predates us. The moment Webb turned its mirrors toward Mercury, something hidden was brought to light. And although the telescope was ordered to turn away, the implications continue to radiate outward, challenging everything we thought we understood about the closest planet to the Sun, and by extension, about ourselves. When the Webb telescope's instruments shifted away from Mercury, the silence left behind was as telling as the discoveries themselves. The extraordinary data, secured and then promptly locked down, left scientists grappling with a dilemma that extended beyond the confines of astronomy. What had been glimpsed was not something that could be easily filed under geological curiosity or unexpected mineral deposit. Instead, the images and readings hinted at something far greater, something that demanded an entirely new framework for understanding Mercury and the role it plays in the architecture of the solar system. While the decision to end observations appeared abrupt, the aftershocks it created inside research institutions were anything but subtle. Researchers were left asking why a world that had been so often dismissed as unremarkable had suddenly become the focal point of cosmic intrigue. The surface of Mercury, under Webb's piercing infrared vision, appeared to conceal a narrative etched in patterns and alignments. To the human eye, Mercury has always been a gray, cratered sphere, lifeless and monotonous, but Webb revealed contrasts invisible in ordinary light. Glowing ridges where heat was retained differently, elongated formations that reflected infrared radiation in deliberate streaks, and expanses that pulsed with a consistency that suggested more than random chaos. These formations did not behave like ordinary rock. Instead, they gave off the impression of intentional design, as if Mercury's crust had been shaped or modified long before Earth's oceans and forests came into being. The telescope's ability to penetrate beneath the surface only deepened the enigma, hinting that what lay buried might be even more consequential than what was visible above ground. One of the most astonishing details hidden within the data was the detection of symmetrical layering beneath Mercury's crust. Using Webb's sensitive instruments, scientists observed subsurface striations stretching for hundreds of kilometers. Such uniform layering could theoretically arise from volcanic processes, but the clean precision of these divisions exceeded anything known in planetary geology. Normally, eruptions, lava flows, and tectonic pressure create jumbled and overlapping layers, each chaotically folded upon the other. On Mercury, however, the pattern appeared almost architectural, as if the planet's foundations had been assembled according to a blueprint. The symmetry was too sharp, too aligned to dismiss as chance. These discoveries left many unsettled, for the implication was clear. If Mercury's crust concealed something artificial, humanity was standing on the brink of rewriting the history not only of the solar system, but of creation itself. The more the data was analyzed, the stranger it became. Subsurface anomalies glowed at consistent intervals, resembling nodal points of energy or information storage. At first, some scientists proposed that these were regions of concentrated metallic ore reflecting Webb's instruments. Yet, upon closer inspection, the intervals at which they occurred suggested a structured grid. Nature rarely works in grids, especially across planetary scales. The possibility arose that Mercury was not a dead world, but rather a planet that had been utilized in some capacity, perhaps as a relay, a depository, or even as a constructed shell concealing something deeper within. To those poring over the information, Mercury began to look less like a natural planet, and more like a vast vault orbiting on the innermost edge of the Sun's gravitational domain. The question of why Mercury became the central topic in hushed discussions. If there truly was evidence of hidden structures or artificial patterns, why would they be found on a planet so hostile? Mercury's searing day side, where temperatures soar high enough to melt lead, combined with its freezing night side, would make habitation nearly impossible by any conventional measure. But from another perspective, Mercury's harshness was its greatest advantage. The sun's glare makes detailed observation from Earth difficult, shielding it from prolonged scrutiny. The extreme conditions also ensure that few natural processes could erode or bury installations, allowing anything concealed there to endure for billions of years. In essence, Mercury may have been chosen precisely because it was the least likely place humans, or even alien eyes, would think to look. There was also the question of Mercury's orbit. As the closest planet to the Sun, it lies at the center of a gravitational and electromagnetic battlefield. Its orbit exposes it to waves of solar radiation and constant bombardment from the solar wind. Any artificial presence there would have unparalleled access to the Sun itself. To some thinkers, this suggested that Mercury could once have functioned as an observation post, a listening station, or even a power harvesting outpost, designed to capture energy directly from the Sun's emissions. If an advanced intelligence had ever sought to study the solar system, or harness the star at its heart, Mercury would be an ideal position from which to operate. The Webb telescope's readings, far from being an accidental glimpse, may have confirmed that such a role had indeed once been assigned to the planet. The discovery of anomalous emissions emanating from within Mercury's crust compounded the puzzle. The infrared readings showed rhythmic fluctuations pulsing in ways that bore resemblance to information encoding. These patterns repeated at intervals that seemed almost too deliberate. If they were indeed signals, then their purpose could vary from simple energy release to highly complex communication. The possibility that Mercury was broadcasting something, perhaps continuously for eons, raises the unsettling thought that it might be more than a relic. It could be an active construct still performing its original function long after its creators had vanished, or perhaps not vanished at all. The implications of such a revelation could shatter human understanding of its cosmic environment. We would not just be encountering remnants of an ancient intelligence, but possibly the working machinery of a system still in operation. In academic circles, theories exploded. Some suggested Mercury might be a hollowed body, an ancient world stripped down and reforged into a machine-like entity. Others envisioned vast subterranean chambers filled with unknown technologies preserved by the planet's hostile exterior. A few went further, proposing that Mercury was never a natural planet at all, but rather an engineered object, a construct disguised as a planet to mask its true purpose. Such hypotheses, while extraordinary, were fueled by the undeniable data Webb had provided: precision, alignment, and emission patterns not accounted for by conventional science. With the telescope's instruments capable of peering across billions of light years, the fact that it found something so incomprehensible in our own backyard felt almost like an intentional revelation. The cultural ramifications of the shutdown were equally significant. Within NASA, and across partner organizations worldwide, debates arose about disclosure. Scientists are trained to share data openly, yet this information was anything but ordinary. If humanity was not ready to grapple with the truth, revealing such discoveries prematurely could cause global upheaval. Religion, philosophy, and politics would be forced to confront questions they had long avoided. Are we alone? Did another intelligence seed the solar system with its designs? What role, if any, does humanity play in that narrative? To prevent chaos, it seems safer, at least for the time being, to suspend the telescope's work and examine the findings in secret. Still, whispers of the event spread, and speculation only grew louder. Mercury itself, reimagined through Webb's revelations, began to emerge as a world of paradoxes. On the one hand, it is the innermost, most battered planet, a place that has no atmosphere worth mentioning, no lush valleys, no oceans, no prospects for life. On the other, it may now be the most important planet to study, precisely because of what lies hidden within its desolation. Where Mars has long attracted attention as a possible cradle of ancient life, Mercury may have just eclipsed it as the more profound enigma. Instead of signs of microbial life or long-lost rivers, Mercury holds the potential of revealing direct evidence of intelligence. Not terrestrial, but something that operated on a scale and timeline beyond human comprehension. The nature of these anomalies also invites comparisons with myths and legends that have long surrounded the inner planets. Across cultures, Mercury was named after gods of speed, communication, and boundary crossing. It was the messenger planet, darting swiftly across the sky. In retrospect, the symbolic association seems uncanny, as if ancient cultures, in their reverence for celestial bodies, had intuited something deeper about Mercury's role. If the planet has indeed been acting as a messenger of sorts, broadcasting signals, storing knowledge, or marking the presence of intelligence, the myths may contain echoes of truths humanity has only now begun to uncover. This blending of science and symbolism deepens the intrigue, for it suggests that the story of Mercury may not just be scientific but cultural, woven into humanity's narrative long before Webb's golden mirrors turned toward it. The more deeply one contemplates the implications, the more staggering the scale of possibility becomes. If Mercury conceals traces of artificial design, then the assumption that intelligence is rare in the cosmos collapses. The discovery would not only imply that intelligence existed beyond Earth, but that it has left enduring fingerprints within our own solar system. It would mean we are not pioneers but latecomers, arriving in a system that was already touched by forces greater than ourselves. That recognition would alter humanity's identity profoundly. No longer could Earth be seen as the singular stage of life and consciousness. Instead, it would be one chapter in a saga that stretches across planets, perhaps across time itself. The shutdown of Webb's work was thus both an ending and a beginning. While the telescope's instruments were ordered to turn away, the questions it raised could not be shut down. Mercury has moved from obscurity to the center of attention, a silent world now burdened with secrets too large to ignore. The next steps are uncertain. Future missions may be redirected to probe Mercury more closely, using orbiters, landers, or even drilling technologies to reach beneath its crust. What lies there could transform every field of human inquiry: astronomy, physics, archaeology, philosophy. Humanity may find itself confronting the reality that the first contact with intelligence beyond Earth does not come from the distant stars, but from the inner world closest to the sun. Every revelation carries weight, but some revelations carry the weight of destiny. Mercury's secrets, once buried in obscurity, now stand on the edge of exposure. Webb's glimpse was brief, but it was enough to ignite a firestorm of possibility. Perhaps that was always the purpose: to hint at the existence of something larger, to prepare humanity for truths it had long suspected, but never confirmed. In shutting down the telescope's observations, NASA may have slowed the process, but they cannot extinguish the implications. The data exists, and the patterns are undeniable. Mercury will continue to orbit the sun, silent and enigmatic, but no longer ignored. It has revealed that what is hidden can no longer remain hidden forever. And in that revelation lies the promise of a future where humanity must face not only the cosmos, but the secrets within its own celestial neighborhood. The brief but profound observations of Mercury by the James Webb Space Telescope did more than surprise scientists. It shattered long-standing assumptions about what the inner solar system represented. For generations, Mercury was thought to be a planetary husk, a relic orbiting too close to the Sun to hold any real mysteries. But the telescope's data carved a new narrative, one where Mercury is not merely a desolate body, but possibly the keeper of knowledge, structures, or functions beyond conventional comprehension. When the telescope's instruments captured those peculiar readings, it changed the trajectory of exploration. And while the telescope was ordered to look away, the echoes of what it saw continued to reverberate through scientific and cultural thought. What makes this moment extraordinary is that Mercury, the least explored of the major planets, has suddenly become a focal point of potential discovery. Unlike Mars or Jupiter's moons, Mercury has not been the subject of sustained fascination in popular science. Its surface, mapped by previous missions, offered little to entice casual wonder beyond craters and cliffs. Yet the Webb telescope's sharp instruments stripped away that layer of familiarity and revealed something much stranger beneath. The sheer abruptness of NASA's decision to suspend Mercury observations underscores just how extraordinary the findings must have been. Institutions dedicated to transparency do not cut off a line of research without a compelling reason. That reason, many suspect, lies in what the telescope uncovered beneath the surface of this sun-baked world. One of the more fascinating aspects of the data was the detection of anomalous thermal consistency in regions where none should exist. Mercury's surface is normally subject to wild temperature swings, climbing to blistering highs on the dayside and plummeting to frigid lows in shadowed areas. But Webb observed regions that maintained uniform heat signatures, as though they were insulated or regulated in ways entirely inconsistent with natural geology. If Mercury were simply a planetary rock with no internal heat system, this should not occur. The suggestion that parts of the crust might be self-regulating points toward the possibility of buried structures, vaults, or some kind of thermal management system, something deliberately engineered to withstand Mercury's otherwise unbearable environment. Even more intriguing were the alignments of reflective ridges that the telescope traced across vast expanses of terrain. They ran in directions that mirrored one another, forming grids and intersections stretching across hundreds of kilometers. These were not random scatterings of geological uplift. They were ordered, patterned, and repeatable. Such precision compelled theorists to consider possibilities far outside the bounds of typical planetary processes. Could they be the remnants of colossal construction? Perhaps ancient networks of surface stabilizers or conduits? Could they signify deliberate attempts to leave markers etched into the face of the planet, visible only through certain instruments? Whatever their purpose, the fact that they remained detectable under billions of years of solar bombardment suggests extraordinary resilience, perhaps crafted from materials designed to survive unimaginable spans of time. Mercury's location alone deepens the mystery. As the innermost planet, its environment makes it one of the least accessible worlds for exploration. Its proximity to the Sun not only complicates spacecraft missions, but also makes it a poor candidate for long-term study, with telescopes not designed to handle such extremes of glare. This raises the question of whether the anomalies observed by Webb were meant to be hidden in plain sight. From Earth, and even from orbiters, Mercury is difficult to study with consistent clarity. Yet a telescope as sensitive as Webb, observing in the infrared, could pierce that veil for just long enough to glimpse what ordinary eyes could not. If the planet has been concealing something, its position close to the Sun may not be coincidental but intentional. A cosmic safeguard against premature discovery. The scientific community has struggled with the implications because such findings challenge the bedrock of planetary science. If Mercury does hold artificial structures or engineered systems, it forces a re-evaluation of solar system history itself. The dominant view has always been that planets formed from dust and gas, their destinies determined by impacts, gravitational pulls, and chemical processes, but Webb's findings suggest an alternative, that somewhere in the depths of time, forces of intelligence may have interacted with these processes. If Mercury was modified or utilized, it means the solar system is not a passive backdrop to human evolution, but a stage that has already been influenced by other players. Among the most unsettling aspects of the telescope's data were the rhythmic emissions detected from deep beneath Mercury's crust. The patterns were consistent enough to suggest they could not be dismissed as geological noise. Normally, a planet without tectonic activity should not emit rhythmic pulses, yet these signals repeated with startling precision. Some researchers speculated about electromagnetic interactions with the Sun, but even that could not fully account for the data. The possibility arose that Mercury itself was functioning as a transmitter, possibly even still carrying out a purpose it was designed to perform. If the pulses are indeed transmissions, then humanity is already in the presence of an active system, one designed to operate autonomously for eons. The cultural shockwaves from such an interpretation would be enormous. Human civilization has always asked whether intelligence exists beyond Earth, but the expectation was that it would be found light years away, in distant galaxies or far-off exoplanets. The idea that the first undeniable sign of intelligence could come not from deep space, but from within our own solar system, on a planet that has been orbiting unnoticed since the dawn of time, would turn human understanding on its head. It would also collapse the comforting distance people often imagine between themselves and the possibility of others. Instead of being separated by millions of light years, evidence of intelligence would be next door, on a planet that has always been visible in the sky. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on NASA shutting down Webb after Mercury's hidden discovery? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.